Okay, let's build something tonight. I want to build a rolling stool that we can use out in the garage. And yeah, you can go buy one of these things, but I got a bunch of parts. I got some wood. And let's see if we can build one. So let's start from the bottom up. I got some casters, and these were off of probably a speaker cabinet or something. I got 4 of these, and they all swivel, so that'll be good for what we're doing. And they're 4 inches high. So that's going to be our bottom. I did some measuring, and I want to be able to hang this up in the garage between the wall studs to get it up off the floor. So our width is going to be determined by the width of those wall studs, and that's going to be 20 inches. And so then I wanted to know how tall to make this thing, and I did some really scientific reckoning, and I measured a 5-gallon pail, because that's not too bad to be sitting on, and that got me to about the height that I wanted, and that came to about 15 inches. So we're going to go up to 16 tall, because if we've got 16 tall, take the 4 inches off for the wheels, that gives us 12. Nice number to work with. So we got 20 wide. We're going to go 16 tall up to the seat, and then as far as kind of the depth on that, we're going to go another 12. So we're going to go 20, 12, 16 high, and that's going to be our stool. And I'm kind of setting this as a bit of a challenge. We're not going to use any sort of real big tools for this. We're going to keep this with all small hand and small power tools. No table saw, nothing like that. So if you want to do something similar, you could. It's not going to be beautiful. We're going to get pretty close. Okay. We're going to set the challenge of we have to use stuff that I've got here. You know, we are staying home. So I'm not going to be able to go out and buy bits that I don't have. Okay. So with that in mind, I went out in the garage and I had this. This is a piece of really nice plywood that it's got an epoxy finish, so it's really nice and tough. And I think this is going to be pretty close to big enough to build our whole thing. So let's start marking this up. We said we need our base to be 12 by 20. It can't be any bigger than that. And what that's going to allow us to do is get our casters on there. So there's one. Let's go to 12 inches. That's going to be there. Let's measure 12 over here. It's going to be there. Combo square. way. Let's come at it this way. And then we said 20, all right? Can't be any more than 20 wide because we want to be able to store this in between wall studs. 20 is going to take us to there. We square it up. There's 20. Okay, so here is the size of the base. That's going to work out pretty well. You know, you want it to be wide enough so that when you're scooting around you don't tip over sideways, but you also don't need it to be, you know, like a recliner. It doesn't have to be huge. That's going to give us a lot. And our vision right now is we want to have a nice base, a couple of sides, and a top. And then we're going to put some edges on the base so we have a compartment underneath that if we want to toss a couple tools in there as we're working and go scooting around, we can do that. So that's going to be our base. Let's start with that. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this, and I'm not going to cut this straight across. I'm going to leave this just in case, you know, we need that long piece. I do have another piece of this. It's got some rabbits cut in it, real shallow, but let's see how much we can get out of this one piece of wood. All right, to cut that, we're going to use this saber saw, jigsaw. I just knocked half the glue off my bench here. It would be real easy to buzz this on the table saw, but we said we're going to try to stick to some hand tools. We'll cover this sort of thing some other time. This is a DeWalt jigsaw. Got it loaded up. You know, if we were building a real nice piece of furniture, something like that, yeah, maybe we want to be as exact as we could. But we're just building a little bench to use out in the garage. I'm not too concerned about it. So we're going to cut this across using the jigsaw. Let's get some power to that. Let's get our eyes on. And this sounds stupid, but when you're using a jigsaw, when you're using a circ saw, know where your cord is. I don't know how many times I've, helped somebody out because they had to wire a new cord into their saw because they lost track of where that was, and it met that. Guess who wins? So, know where your cord is. Alright, so we're going to cut this straight across, as straight as we can with this jigsaw. Okay, so we went straight across. I'm going to spin this, cut this off, and then I'll bring you back. You got the idea. All right, so there's our base, and we went 20, 12, and while we were off camera there, I used the orbital sander just to clean up the edges a bit. Yeah, not razor straight by any means, but you know, we're trying to do this with just some hand tools, shop tools, without going over to the table saw. The big idea whenever you're using a saw of any kind, whether it's a jigsaw, circ saw, table saw, let the blade, let the tool do the work. Don't force anything, because then you're going to get yourself in trouble. Okay, so we've gone 20 wide. Now we want to go 12 up. Okay, and the way we're going to do this is, you know, this will be sitting, you know, on the wheels. Okay, so those wheels are going to go underneath this, and that's going to allow us to go in whatever direction we need to go. The sides we're going to set right on here, so that that's our strength, right? Because if we went to the sides, then whatever fastener we had would be facing some sort of shearing. Whereas if it's sitting right on top, well, it's going to be about as strong as it's going to be. And this is 3/4 inch ply, so it's not going to flex, not over 20 inches. There's no way. So we've got to go 12 to get to the edge, and we need to go 12 high. So we need a couple of squares, 12 by 12, to go here. So to do that, let's go back to our piece here, and let's see what we got. Yeah, we're going to end up using that other piece of wood. It's okay. So we got to go 12 by 12. Let's mark 12 there. Mark 12 down there. Before we do that, let's take a look at that other piece. It's a lot longer. Like I said, I had some rabbits cutting this for another project that ended up not using it, but I'm thinking, you know, like this, that might get us pretty close to what we need, and these rabbits won't come into it. That's 12 there. That's 12 there, and we can do that on both sides, and we'll be in the money. So let's mark that at 12. Let's mark this at 12. Use our combo so that it's square. Go straight across there. Go straight across there. 12 by 12, and that'll be our side. Now, yeah, I know it's 3/4 of an inch thick, and we still got to put a top on it, and then we're going to put some sort of pad on the top. So let's call it another 3/4 of an inch for a top, and then another 1/4 inch worth of padding. All right, it's going to end up being 17 inches tall. who cares? You know, we're just kind of going for nice numbers, and we're going to build something that that's going to work out pretty well. You know, the other thing we can do here is try to angle this a bit so you can see it. We don't really need a seat that's 12 inches wide. At least I don't need a seat that's 12 inches wide yet. So we can bring these sides in. We can do an angled cut where we can come up but make the seat, you know, maybe we only make the seat 8 inches wide. So if we got 12 here, we could come in 2 on either side, and that's going to keep our weight centered right over the middle so it doesn't tip one way or the other when we're scooting around. And it'll give us a fair bit of strength. So, you know, if we come up, you know, we don't need a lot. You know, this is the art of guesstimation, folks. Kind of doing this by eye. Let's say if we go up 5 inches, let's see what this geometry ends up looking like. So there's 5. And we come in, we said 2 for an 8-inch seat. How big is 8 inches? That's still pretty big. 6? That's not big enough. Yeah, let's go 8. Okay, so there's 2. If we draw a line connecting that, that'll give us our angle. Okay, so that's cut off there. We said 5 up, right? So we can do that this way. I'm working at an angle here so you can see what's going on. So that's square there. We go 2 inches. 1, 2. Goes to there. And connect the dots. Go to there, cut that out. So that's waste. Here's our side. And that way, you know, we can have a tool tray that's, you know, 2 or 3 inches deep on the bottom. The sides will taper up so that the seat's 8 inches wide. It'll be centered over the middle of the base so that it's as stable as it's going to be. Yeah. And then once we got that cut out, what we're going to do is we're going to take that piece, we'll use it as a template on the other end. We'll cut another one that looks just like that, and we'll end up with our 2 sides. All right, I'll bring you back when we got those cut out. Stand by. All right, so we got those cut out, and I did sand the edges down. It's not exact, you know. It takes a lot longer when you're using something like that, but you know, if you just take your time. But I did use a trick. I did cut them both. Once I got them kind of dimensioned out, shoulda, coulda, woulda. What I did is once I got that kind of dimensioned out so that at least we would be somewhat symmetrical, at least have the same, you know, kind of mistakes on both. What I did is I double sticked these together with some of this. Let me grab grab this. This is one of those things that you should have in your shop all the time. This is carpet tape. Indoor, outdoor, double stick carpet tape. And it's got a mesh on it. You can see that. You get you real nice and close. And yeah, you could stick a cat to the wall with this stuff if, well, don't do that to a cat. This is awesome if you're doing any sort of template work, if you're doing stuff like this where you want to get two pieces pretty close to the same. Yeah, absolutely. Carpet tape is the way to go. It is crazy good. And a little bit goes a long way. You know, I only needed, you know, a piece here, and a piece here, and that'll stay exactly where you want it. It ain't going to move around. If you use more than that, you're getting dangerously close to a permanent bond. All right, let's see what we got. So there's our base. Wheels are going to go up from the bottom, and these are going to go here, right? So the only thing we got left really here, folks, is we need a piece to go across the top. Now we made this 8 inches, but it's still going to be 20 wide, and that way all of the weight, all of the stress, everything is going to go straight down, and it's 3/4 of an inch wide, so that's going to be more than enough once we glue and screw everything together here. The other thing that we're going to add is front and back. We'll add a couple of lips so that we can use this bottom for some tool storage. Toss in there. That'll work out pretty well. Alright, so that's the base, our sides. Here is our piece from before. We know this is 20, right? Because that's where we cut out our other piece. So let's make a mark. There. And we said 8. That is what we did here. 8 inches. Let's go. Let's go 7 7/8. Double checking that because when I cut that, looks like I cut this a little bit short. So we're not quite at 8. We're at 7 7/8. So if we go at 7 7/8, then that'll go up straight here. We're going to gain another 3/4 inch plus a 1/4 inch or whatever padding, whatever we put up on the top. Okay, so 7 7/8. It's going to go there. 7 7/8. Gonna go there. Combo square from the top. Drop that down. Combo from the bottom. That's going to be our seat. Let's get that cut out. I think if we go this way, what do you think? Come up to it here and then across. Yeah, we can do that. Okay. We got dust everywhere. Let's fire this up. Right. Okay. Here's our seat. It's going to mock everything up here. Base. Here's our two sides. Here's our seat. Just like so. So, yeah, it's like building a house of cards here. Nothing's holding it together. Yeah, the only thing we got to do now is maybe cut these inside pieces here, and these two strips, one there, so that's going to be 20 minus an inch and a half, so 18 and a half to go from here to here, because we want it to fit inside these. Yeah, I'm just going to cut those, and I'll bring you back. Stand by. All right, so brought you back. Just about done cutting. That's sawdust everywhere. So we got these are 18 and a half by 3. Did the same trick. I cut them both at once. You know, the other thing you can do too is I used I use this as a straight edge, so I clamped them up and used that as a guide along the shoe. Now, it doesn't guarantee you a perfectly straight cut, but it gets pretty close. Just makes such a racket on the movie. So now we're kind of down to putting this thing together. But what I want to do is get the sides, the other one's down here, attached like such, and that's going to be the base of our rolling stool. That'll be a pretty nice size. And of course this will sit over the top, and I've yet to decide whether I'm going to bother with upholstering that or not. You know, my opinion might change dramatically once I have to sit on it for more than 20 minutes at a time. Yeah, let's start putting that together. So to do this, you could use some real big bar clamps, but I'm trying to do this with kind of a minimal amount of stuff. Got that squared up. We're going to put this together with glue and construction screws. So those are going to go there. Let's drill these in and then shoot some screws. Get the rails and the sides put together, and then we'll flip it over and put the base on it. We're going to use, to do that, these 1 5/8" construction screws, and we want to drill this so we don't split it. So we're going to drill this at 7/64. Eyeball it. So we get in the middle. And the other thing we're going to use, let me grab this here, is a countersink bit. If I can get it out. All right. That's this thing here. And what that's going to do is it chamfers the edge of the hole. Hope you can see it right there. It chamfers the edge of the hole so that that screw sits flush, and we hit that there. That's about all it takes, right there. And this is where having a couple drills is a luxury. Clank. All right, so we're on the road. All right, let's get another one drilled. countersunk. And a screw. So we're going to do that on all four corners, and once we got that done, I'll bring you back when we flip this over and put the base onto the sides. All right, stand by. All right, so you know Murphy's Law, as soon as we went off the air, battery number 2 died. So that was a whole bunch of switching back and forth between batteries and bits and drills and whatever. So now we're going to put the base on, and when we do this, we're going to add a little bit of glue around the edges just to make sure that this stays where we want it to stay. And again, we're using our Tight Bond wood glue. I do like Tight Bond. Tried the other guy's stuff. There's a few other brands out there. Yeah, seen us use this before. It's good stuff. Hasn't failed me yet. All right, so get our base set on there, and then we're going to drill usually when I'm doing something like this that I like to keep square. I do one kind of off on the side. It's our countersink. And then I'll go kind of diagonal across it and grab another one. So that way, in case anything does wiggle around a little bit, you can adjust for that. Do the same thing over here. See how I kind of shift that around a little bit, and yeah, it's not perfect because we cut that by hand. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's got to do a job. You know, again, if we're building furniture or something that, you know, there are times that, yeah, we got the time and we want to use a bunch of big tools, use a table saw, use all of that just to get everything absolutely perfect, and there's nothing wrong with that. The idea here is that we're using a bunch of hand tools. Put this together, and we're using bits that we already had. You know, wood that, you know, scrap wood from another project. We're using casters from something else. We're using, you know, anything that we can to recycle stuff here. So we're going to keep on keeping on. Adding screws and countersinking these things. We're going to go kind of all the way around. Make that clobbered you. We're going to keep going all the way around. Probably put 2 more on the long side, put 2 more on the short side, maybe 3 on the long side, and then we'll come back and talk about putting some wheels on there. Stand by. Okay, so bringing you back, just ran all the way around the outside of that, and yeah, I did end up going with 2 on the short sides, and then, you know, a total of 5, I guess, across the long side. That's not going to go anywhere. And what I want to do with the casters then is we're going to mount them this way. And what that's going to allow us to do is we're going to be able to drive screws up into, you know, both layers, the base and the sides, or the base and that front lip, in 3 places. And that's going to be really nice and strong. And just to make sure that we can catch that edge, I'm going to use these finish washers. Those go on there like so. And that just is going to give us a little more bite on there. Okay, so let's grab our awl. Now you could use a center punch if you want to be really exact. But we're going to take our awl and we're going to mark the center of each of those. Slide that off to the side. We still got our other battery charging up, so let's pre-drill. Now these don't have to be countersunk, of course. You're never going to see them. It's going to go there. It's going to go there. Now this one here, because it's in the middle, we don't want to go all the way through. I don't want something sticking out, but I'm just going to kind of get through the first couple layers of plywood there. And let's take our caster, get that on there. And our bit didn't want to let go. We're going to get our casters mounted on all 4 corners this way. We're going to drive those long screws on those 3. And then on the shorter one, I've got some smaller wood screws that'll hold that. You know, we can get away with 3 just fine, but we'll use some shorter screws. There. And yeah, we're going to do that on all 4 corners, and then I'll bring you back. Stand by. Okay, so we're just finishing up getting these casters mounted on there. And normally when I build something that's got wheels on it, I wait till the bitter end to put the wheels on, because what you end up doing is chasing the stupid thing all over the bench because you just put wheels on it. But I'm hemming and hawing a little bit over what to do with the seat. So there is our rolling base, and you know, we said we were aiming for about a bucket high, 15-16 inches, and we're going to come in at 17 1/4. That's fine with me. So that's going to go across the top. Okay, and let me bring you down here so we can kind of see what's going on. So yeah, I built this compartment in there so that if you want to toss a couple tools in there while you're working, yeah, you can do that. The casters on all 4 corners, I happen to have 4 that's swiveled, so that can go all over anywhere. And we tapered the sides up, so we went from 12 at the bottom to 8 at the top. We went 5 inches up, and then these ended up to be about 3 inches here. So yeah, and you know, glued together here, screwed. That's going to be plenty strong. If we're sitting here, the weight's here and that's coming through, that's great, and that comes straight through and we're sitting right on that platform. Perfect. Our screws for the wheels are into 2 layers of that 3/4 inch ply. Those aren't going to go anywhere. It's 12 inches across, so I'm not concerned about it tipping over on me. And it's 20 inches that way, so it's going to fit in between the wall joists, because the idea is I want to put a couple of hooks on the wall so that I can flip this thing upside down and just hang it between the wall studs in the garage. I don't want it, you know, ratzing around on the floor, or I'm going to keep tripping over the thing. Yeah, so I'm still kind of hemming and hawing over this seat. I do want to upholster that, I think. Then we're going to maybe put some brackets. I'll get you up under there. Put a couple of angle brackets there to hold that all together. Yeah, I think that's the way we want to go. Well, it's getting a little late, so I think we're going to leave it there for tonight. Get you there. There's our shot. That's our little working stool. You know, it's all out of scrap wood and hand tools, a couple of drills, jigsaw, sander, odds and ends floating around here on the bench. All stuff we got going. So yeah, we're gonna leave this overnight to think about and figure out how we want to do that in the morning. All right, we'll catch you up then. See you later. We're back at our little garage cart here. I raided the stash and grabbed a piece of OSB, and this is what we're going to use. We're going to put some vinyl on this in a minute, and I'll show you when we get there why I chose that, besides the fact that it's what I had. But what we're going to be able to do here is get the top screwed down, because we're not going to need to get that off of there again. So we're going to put a little glue along here. I think 3 screws on the side ought to do us. Again, if you go kind of corner to corner on this, you can square it off. Get it where you want it. Okay, so we're going to go to the other corner here. We can square that up. That'll You know, there's a couple things that had we, see a little bit of a wobble in there. Never see it once the top's on it. You know, had we done this using the table saw and that, we could have had everything totally square and you know, all the edges nice. And you know, we got pretty close. The idea here was, remember, we're trying to do this with some small power tools, some hand tools. And I think sometimes too we lose sight of the fact that, you know, you want things to be nice, you want to take pride in your work. But for something like this, that's just going to go out in the garage and scoot around on there when they're doing work on the cars, on the lawnmowers, and that sort of thing. Maybe it's just got to be good enough. It's going to be strong, it's going to be safe. Certainly not going to come apart. And beyond that, could certainly have done this out of metal also. Kind of do an angle or a tube frame on it and weld that together. Would have been pretty good. One big problem with that is I don't have a lot of stock right now for building that sort of thing, and I wasn't going to go out and buy something. I wanted to use what I had. We could stop there. There's nothing wrong with that. It's going to be a little uncomfortable sitting on that, so we're going to put a little cushion on there. But we got our tool storage underneath. We've got casters in all four corners. And yeah, let me show you how we're going to do this. We're going to do this in a couple of steps. Now I picked this OSB oriented strand board because it's soft. We're going to be able to drive some staples into this. I didn't want to use, I've got more of this, but this is like UV epoxy plywood. You'd never staple into that. We'd just be borrowing headache for ourselves. So what we're going to do is we're going to clamp this down, and we're going to mount this with 4 bolts. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. We're going to use some of these T-nuts here, so we can bolt this from the bottom. If we wanted to, we could take this top back off again. We use those, and we need 4 of those. Get a couple of washers. What do you think? I have some smaller ones. I might not. Probably at the bottom. Okay. So what we need to do is drill a hole big enough. Made this mistake before too. Yeah, those are 1/4 threads. We need to drill a hole big enough for that. Too small. Be up here. That'll do it. We want to be able to press that in there. Okay. We need 4 of them. And I am not seeing. Stand by. Okay, there's a trick for you. If you can't find your pencil, look in your pocket. Okay, so we're going to go 2 inches in and 4 inches that way for our screws. So 2 inches, I got that set to 4, so that's going to go there. Two inches that way, 4 inches that way, same thing down here. Okay, and we're going to drill 4 holes, and we're going to drill through both. Get this stuff falling down. Do that, just make sure that we kind of got it where we want it. Okay, 4 holes. Oops, shifted. You see it? Just make sure we're lined up again. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to suck all that out of there. And we're going to drive those T-nuts on there. So what that's going to allow us to do is drive these in and then bolt that from the bottom. That's going to go far enough that those bolts are going to grab. Okay, and we'll be able to get that locked up from the bottom. And that way too, if we need to take this apart or take this top off or replace the top, we can do that. I'm going to mark an X there, and an X there, so when we put this together, we know it goes this way, not that way. Okay, so we'll get this out of the way. I need 4 of these. You can press these in a couple of ways. Something that works pretty well is you can put that over into bench vise and just squeeze. You whack them with a hammer. Yeah, I'll bring you back when I'm done with that. Okay, so we got those hammered in there, and this is going to go like such, so that those bolts can catch that from the bottom. This is a piece of black vinyl that I had on a stash over there. Keep this around for exactly this sort of thing. Pick this up real cheap, clearance bin type thing. Now, normally the way that I'd like to do this is to just put a piece of foam on there and done. Well, I am out of foam, and I'm not going to go get any more, so we're going to try something. I said this is scrap. This we could use a couple dozen times if we wanted to. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to staple this on. We're going to use a staple gun. I've got this loaded with 3/8 staples. Now these are shorter ones, but this gives you an idea. That's what they look like. We're going to put a few staples on there, and I'm going to leave some slack. And I'm not going to go tight, because what we're going to try to do is get a couple things on here, and then we're going to stuff it with some batting. See, that's why we wanted that softer wood, so we could drive those screws in there, or staples. This is one of those things that it's good to have in the shop. They're not expensive. You can get a pretty decent staple gun for not a lot of cash. Yep, 20 bucks. Good to have around. So we're going to do that. What do you think if we do the two sides and then try to burrito the thing down the middle? I don't know. Haven't really done it this way. Inventing something here. And the deal is, when we do something from scratch, sometimes it works. Sometimes we take it apart and do it again. So that gives us the pocket, okay? And the idea here is that we're going to stuff this with some batting. We got that here. It's just fiber fill. This probably is not going to hold up real well over time. But if it holds up well enough that we can use it until I can get some foam, so be it. Go from one side. And then what'll happen is when we pull those ends down, that'll be a little less squatchy, but can't be a too bad thing, right? Try to get it so there's no big gaps in between it. So all just scraps, fiber fill. One more. So, got that in there. The middle will be softer than the edges. I got something up in my hand. That's bugging me. So we got that in there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to bring our ends over. And I think I'm just going to tack that there. Do the same thing over here. That one didn't go in very well. Okay, we'll fix that in a minute. Yeah. that'll work, right? Okay, so to do these corners, what you can do, and you know what, honestly, what I'm going to do is I'll bring you back. I'm going to take these out and I'm going to stretch this a little tighter now that we got that in there. Be right back. Okay, bring you back, kind of get you down in the action for this. So I got it just kind of buttoned up on the sides. I'll show you how to do this with one of these corners. Here's one that I did just to see, because I want to make sure that this doesn't add a bunch of extra thickness. Sometimes when you do corners, you know, if we just would take this and, you know, try to bunch it over or do something like that, you know, now this is too thick and it's going to screw us up. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to figure out, now when you're doing upholstery type stuff, and this is sledgehammer upholstery, this is not fine furniture work. You want to get your corners secured pretty close to where you're going to be working, and then what I like to do is put one at the diagonal on either side, something like that. And what we're fighting right now is the cushion that's on the top, so those aren't going in all the way. Okay, so now we got a real secure corner to work with, and again, we could just take this and pull this up and over, but you see this here, this gets all bulgy. See that? There's too much extra fabric, so we're going to cut that out of there. And the way that we do that, come at it on the side here, and I just have a small blade, and this vinyl is tough stuff. I have to go get a new blade, and my finger is well above that. You know, all of us have made that mistake where you're cutting something, your finger's too far down in it. And we're just going to cut a triangle out the side of this, something like that. Okay, do that on this other side too. Like I say, you can look, and there are tons of ways to do upholstery corners for various applications. So what that's going to allow us to do is, now this corner is going to be doubled up. It's going to be nice and strong on that edge, and we can pull that kind of tight, right? Then go ahead and hit it a few times. That didn't go in. Here did that one. Fighting that squishiness. We were too successful at making that soft. Okay, yeah, you get the idea. So I'm going to draw those out and flatten that and finish buttoning this all up, and I'll bring you back when we bolt it together. Just thought I'd show you this real quick. I was going to replace that blade. Just go get another one. Anytime you throw away a razor blade, anytime, even if it's in your shop and it's in your garbage and you know where it's going, cover that blade. I always just put a piece of duct tape over the top of it, and that way it's a little bit safer. Anybody going, and if you go looking into that trash for something, if you know you're whatever, nobody's gonna get themselves tagged on that. Safety tip. Yeah, so there's our cushion. It's got a nice amount of give there in the middle. You can see on the back here we got those corners done. They're nice and flat. Plenty of staples around the outside edge. You don't have to be shy with the staples. Okay, everything's in there. Like I said, if you want to look up other ways to do corners, there's tons of different ways to do corners. You know, if we were doing a box, something that we needed a square corner, then you got to miter those things. If you're using contact adhesive, there's different ways to do things. That works real well for something like that. You know, a little bit of dust on there yet. Okay, well, let's put the two halves together. Set that aside. Okay, so we got our X here at the front. Maybe get you up a little bit higher so you can see what we got going on. A little better. And we got our 4 holes that our bolts are going to go into. We've got our board that I conveniently covered up my X with the with the upholstery. Well, it's got to go one way or the other, right? That's going to go on there. Okay. So start with one and just see if these are going to be long enough. I want that to be able to catch that edge. It's going to be really close. We might have to step up to a little bit bigger screw, bolt rather, in order to catch enough of that thread. Again, this is what I had. Yeah, stand by. I want to look around a little bit. Okay, so dug around a little bit. We're going to use those. Still 1/4-20, little Phillips head on them, but they are just a little longer. I'm a little happier with that. And they're just grabbing a few more threads. And it's going to keep us from... It's one of those things where as you're working, one of those will let loose right at the wrong time, and you're gonna, shooting off. Somebody else might think it funny, but you won't. So we're gonna tighten those down. Something else I was thinking about is, yesterday we mentioned that we want this to fit in between the studs on the wall of my garage, and some of you might have caught when I said we want to make that 20 inches to fit in between those wall studs. You say, well, 20 inches? It's too far apart for wall studs. It's supposed to be 16 on center. Well, my garage was built sometime in the late 20s, early 30s. It's built like a barn. It is not going anywhere, but yeah, it's not 16 on center. I don't think even 20 on center is consistent throughout. Built with what they call true dimension lumber. So a 2x4 is actually 2 inches by 4 inches. It's not like the new ones that are 3.5 by 1.5. Okay, so that's locked on there. Everything's secured together. We got a little bit of squitch. Yeah, that's gonna work. Bring it down here. Yeah. There's our top. Corners are reinforced. Looks pretty alright. You can see the texture on that vinyl. It's real thick stuff, but you know what? If it gets dinged up, hit the bargain bin again and put some more vinyl on there. And we got our tool storage down here. Everything is glued and screwed. And underneath, we got our casters all mounted up. You can see those 4 screws that put the top on there. Yeah. Small power tools, scraps, bits, bobs we had laying around. Build something that's going to be pretty useful out there in the garage. And it'll hang on center between my old stud walls. And I'm just going to put some hooks on the wall, flip it upside down and it can hang right off of that. All right, everybody. You know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff down there. If you got any questions, you can always hit me up. Email down there. Yeah. All right. We'll catch you next time. Peace.